There we go. All right. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Well, welcome to another episode of the Prosperous Man Podcast. I am your host, Leonard McElveen. And with me today, I have Francesca. Is it McDowell?
Yes, McDowell. Well done.
Yes. Awesome. Francesca. She is an author, a consultant, a good person speaking energy, speaking life into businesses, doing some consulting. So we want to just welcome her. Thank you for joining us today. I so appreciate it. And welcome, welcome, welcome to the
Thank
Prosperous Man
you.
Podcast.
Thanks so much,
Yeah.
Leonard. It's great to be here. Really excited to be sharing with you today.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So before we kind of jump into it, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your business, and
Sure.
kind of what you're doing and how your
Yeah,
faith intertwines with everything.
absolutely. Thank you. So, yeah, as you said, my name is Francesca, and I live over here in the UK. I would say the sunny UK, but it's more a little bit dreary right now. But yeah, this is home, and I run a coaching and consultancy business. So I sit as a leadership coach, and I really help people across three main areas. So their personal development, public speaking, and also their business development. And my faith is intermingled amongst all of those areas, as I also support some churches and some Christian-based organizations. And I
That's
love what I
awesome.
do. Yeah, I love helping people. I love serving. I also am an author, so I've written 3 books so far, and loved the writing journey as well. I think when you can speak to an audience outside of your own remit, it's just really powerful. And what else? A mentor. I mentor students and young people.
Oh,
And
awesome.
lastly, I am a speaker, so I deliver keynotes and presentations.
That is awesome. So thank you for joining us, and kind of why I wanted to be able to have you as a guest today was being able to have somebody that is, that's not really separating their faith from what they're doing, but being able to encourage people. And maybe you could speak on how the personal development aspect goes when you're trying to, help someone and kind of guide them along that journey, how your faith intermingles with that, but also how the person is. They may not all be a Christian,
Yeah.
but just kind of like their own views on spirituality and how that can help or hinder, you know, their journey along personal development.
Sure, sure, absolutely. I mean, personal development is key. I think even as adults, we have to be in a consistent learning space so that we are always growing, expanding. And I think when individuals, particularly professionals, perhaps get into a new role or a new career, they can often need some personal development coaching. And one of the ways it really shows up for me in terms of my faith is around purpose. And so I
Mm,
really believe that every single individual, whether you know God or you don't yet know God, you have a purpose. You were born for a reason. Everything was designed. And actually, oftentimes when things aren't going well or things aren't working out right, it may be because they're not really in their purpose, even within their career or their field. And so I do a lot of work around identifying your natural strengths and how do we find out what you're naturally good at, what do you enjoy to do, what makes your heart sing, and then how do we move better into that sort of space. And so for those who are believers, it's very easy to kind of bring in the scripture and the word, and we'll even pray together at times. But for those who aren't, I will still teach the principles
mm, mm.
and explain just, yeah, the principles and the underlying reasons why we're going down this route to support.
That's really good, and I like that, and I like how you put it, kind of finding the thing that makes your heart sing.
Yeah.
So and I wholeheartedly agree with you that there's we're all here for a reason.
Yes.
And part of me wanting to be able to do this podcast is like to be able to show that there's more out there than us doing, kind of having our 9 to 5 or the job we do. Like, the world is bigger than that, and we've got more to contribute. Now,
Yes.
not to downplay it, but there's nothing wrong with that. You can be satisfied in those things,
Yeah.
but I also feel like there's more for us to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, definitely agree. And for some people, it really is starting a business. It really is connecting with people and developing a product or innovating, and as well as providing service. And then they're in their lane and they're in their purpose. And I think that the ripple effect is massive. really
Yeah.
big.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to see somebody pursuing it and just trying to find their purpose is inspiring. It makes you want, okay, it makes you be like, yeah, there's something else I could be doing. There's more I could
Yeah.
be doing. Maybe I'm not in my purpose, although I enjoy these things. Maybe it's not in my purpose.
Yeah.
And I guess so that would be kind of my next question is how do for that person that is, really kind of satisfied with life. They've got a good job, their families are doing well, there's a comfortability factor to it. How do what do you do or what do you recommend for that person that, maybe they're starting to see kind of little things like maybe things aren't as great as they think they are, or they're kind of just starting this self development journey and want to be able to find their purpose.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, finding purpose is it's big. And actually, my pastor at my church, he said this line a few years ago, and now it's just stuck with me. And he said that purpose unfolds like a scroll during your lifetime.
Mm,
And I
I
even put
like
it in my
that.
last book. It was just so inspiring and also insightful to the fact that when we're 20, our life's purpose is predominantly education, and it's bettering ourselves, and it's entering into early adulthood and learning about ourselves. But then in our 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on, our purpose changes and it grows with us. And I think when people are beginning to, or they're wanting to really discover their purpose, again, back to strengths. What are you naturally good at? What do you do? And in what way do you do it that is almost effortless because of the joy that it brings you and because of how energized you feel when you do it? And I don't necessarily believe that those things are easy. For example, as a speaker, it's not always easy.
Mm.
However, I get so much joy from it. And so I know that's very much a part of my purpose. And with some of my clients, I love to do what's called a SWOT analysis. And I first learned about this in business studies when I was a teenager. And it's simply looking at your life and asking yourself, well, what are my strengths, first of all? So for the S, the W is what are my weaknesses or my areas of development? The O is what are my opportunities? And lastly, the T is what are my threats? So those go across things internal to you and then external, and just really taking time to assess your life. Where are you at and where can you grow?
That's awesome. I love that quote from your pastor, the scroll, like your life is a
Yeah.
scroll, because it very much like in your 20s, your purpose is, for me, I was kind of like I was in college trying to get an education. In my 30s, I'm, getting married, having kids. So that becomes kind of the purpose is building this home and this family. And now I'm in the later part of my 30s, almost my 40s, and it's like, okay, what's the next
Yeah.
thing? Is like, yes, I have these responsibilities and these things that are going on right now, but my purpose is also tied to kind of preparing things, especially for my kids as they grow up,
Yeah,
preparing some
absolutely.
things for them and getting some things ready and preparing the next journey for me as a business owner or entrepreneur. And all of those things start to come into play. So I love
Yeah.
that quote as
Yeah.
your purpose is like a scroll or like your life. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. And I think also it's knowing that the scroll is very specific to you. And so
Mhm.
the order of events in our lives are unique to us. And so while somebody may be settling down at 22, somebody else is 32 or even 42. And I think
Yeah.
we have to be better at accepting that our life steps, they're okay, even if they're different from the quote unquote average or the expected or, what other people or what society says it should be. No, this is your life and your purpose is your purpose.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. And we just in society, can look at people because maybe they're starting something at a later, year, or they could be 42, 52, going back
Mhm.
to college or going back to high school. And I think we've gotten better at it, but there still can be that kind of stigma around that.
Yeah.
And people get in fear and then they might not and they will back away from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, one of the reasons I think when some people experience a lot of fear is because they're so accomplished in certain areas, they're so proficient and they're very good at what they do because they know it. And yet,
Mhm.
when you start on a new journey, you're a beginner again. And let's be honest, as adults, we don't like to not know things. We don't like
Yeah.
to be dependent on somebody else or be a learner. However, it's really, it's a real necessity. If we are going to grow in life, we have to be okay with being a beginner again.
Yeah. And that kind of brings me, I guess, to the next question. Is fear the biggest hindrance to people continuing on that personal development? Whether it's personal, whether it's business, because very much you have to start over. It's like starting at ground zero again. And that can be very humbling to ask somebody else for help, or, you know, to start over again. And it's a lot of times we don't like to do that because,
Yeah.
we may judge ourselves because we're so accomplished in a certain area, or, we've done great things in one realm or space of our life. But now that we're starting over, it is like, oh, this is what this feels like. And I don't like this feeling.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think for the majority of people, definitely not everybody, but for the majority of people, it's fear. But also, it's then fear of the unknown. It's fear of failure. It's fear of success. It's fear of change. And I think for a lot of people, fear really does sit in there amongst the reasons why they don't. Or they start and then they quickly retreat back. Because, like earlier on, you spoke about people being comfortable. And we know that when you're in your comfort zone, you're not going to grow because you're comfortable and there's no need to. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be living, I think, at your optimum.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the distinguishing factor, or that's the separation that has to be made, is that we can be comfortable, but in your comfortability, you're not really living life.
Yeah,
Is that you go through, kind of using the phrase, you go through the motions.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's it's easy to do that. It's easy to go to
Yeah.
work, come home, spend time with the family, you take your vacations, you do kind of all of the kind of quote unquote normal things you're supposed to do. And what's amazing to me is that you can do those same things, but it feels different as you're on a personal development journey.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, what as you have gone on this journey, and you've started the process of writing the book, you have written how many books? Two, three?
Three.
Three books. I
Yeah,
thought so.
so
I was
far.
looking at your bio. I was like, I thought I saw three books.
Mm.
So how has that process been for you personally? Because that's speaking of like personal development. The process
Yeah.
of writing a book is,
Yes.
right up that alley. So how has that process been for you as you've
Yeah.
kind of had to sit down and write these books and take all the
Sure.
thoughts in your head and put them on paper?
Yeah. I will preface this by saying that I started writing about 4 books about 6 years ago. And I would get to chapter 2 and then just like suppress, you know, just stop. And so many times we have a desire, but we don't necessarily have the follow through. And I think for me in this season, I've really learned that it's about strategy, number one, and it's also about understanding your why. And so the first book I co-wrote with one of my business partners, and we developed a strategy for how we were going to write. So it was going to be a chapter a month. We had to submit it on this shared drive by the last day of the month. And because we were doing it together, there was also that level of accountability,
Yeah.
because you didn't want to be the one that said, oh, sorry, I haven't done my chapter, and so
Mhm.
we really utilized that. And then with the second book, again, it was a collaboration, and we use one of some of our coaching programs around public speaking to
Okay.
really just put it on paper so we could share with many more people. And then the latest book, I feel like, has been the most challenging because the topic is about spiritual abuse, and so it's quite an intense topic,
Mm.
and it's also part of my personal story. And so you become quite vulnerable when you start to share on paper certain experiences you've gone through. But my why was firstly because this is what the Lord called me to do. So I'm acting in obedience to Him. But secondly, because our pain and our experiences and our trauma can be healing for so many people. And I think when we get into a space of really seeing that, also when we're healed as well, because that's important. You don't want to be talking about your story and breaking down when you're meant to be inspiring others. But I definitely think that, writing is incredible. And now I'm like, everybody should write a book. There's no reason not to, because we've all got stories inside us. We've all got a message to share with the world. And books are amazing because they can get everywhere in the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, awesome. That's inspiring to me. And very much for the same reason, I think, one of the kind of great deceptions is that we all think we're going through something by ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we hold it in, we keep it, we don't share those experiences or those traumas, you know, because we think we're the only one. Nobody will understand, nobody will know, or we're embarrassed or fear or whatever the kind of gamut of emotions that we go through, we keep those things inside. And to truly heal from it, you've got to be able to give that thing a voice. You've got to be able to talk about it and speak about it. And writing a book absolutely does that. You
Yeah, it really does. And actually, even the writing process was really cathartic. So it was just like journaling times 10, Yeah, it was really, really good. It was
yeah,
good. It was painful, but it was good.
but it's good. Yeah. And I recently had someone that had like reached out to me because I was doing I was doing a group where I was meeting, doing a Bible study group, and I was meeting with men, every week. And we were just doing it and just doing it. And, somebody really close to me that was a part of the group kind of passed away. And I got a phone call, and, they were just like, thank you, that thank you for doing this. And the guy, he looked forward to it, he loved
Wow.
being able to come and talk. And sometimes it's just the everyday things that you're doing that
Yeah.
you don't think has an impact. And I think the same comes kind of with your story, is like, as we're going through and as we share our traumas, you don't know the impact that it'll have on somebody else that will be reading it and it'll be like, yeah, we all have a story to share.
Yes.
And it lends itself to really God using it to be a blessing and to be
Yeah.
inspiring and to encourage other people. So, but it
Yeah.
all starts with kind of us having to heal and to work through
Yeah.
and be diligent. I loved how you say you have the accountability.
Oh, massively.
We need that to be able to finish what we're doing. Like, we all have great ideas, we all have God inspired ideas, but the follow through is not always there.
Yeah, absolutely. And earlier on, when you were talking about that, we all have a story. One of my favorite scriptures is from Proverbs or Ecclesiastes, where it says, "There is nothing new under the sun." I think it's Ecclesiastes actually,
Hmm.
because just gives language to the fact that when we sit by ourselves and we think, "Oh, it's just me," or "No one's going to understand," or "Why did this happen to me?" we forget the truth that there is nothing any of us have been through that no one else can't, in some way, at least understand or identify with.
Yeah,
Of course, context is different and all of that stuff, but our human experiences are the human experience.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I look forward to that book and
Yeah, me
many
too.
more.
Yeah, and to be fair, I do have a couple more in the pipeline that yeah, I'm just really excited about. To be honest with you, I didn't anticipate this being part of my journey. Yeah, I wanted to write, but like, write a few books, no. But ultimately, I believe God is opening doors, and yeah, I'm looking forward.
That's inspiring to me because I'm very much on a similar kind of journey. Is like, I've want a book and God has given me ideas to write books,
Yeah,
and I know I'm at the very beginning page. So I have my accountability group now that can kind of track to see how much
yeah,
I'm writing each day and where I'm going and like things like that. So, you know, I know I need that because I've done the thing. Oh yeah, I'm gonna write a book, and I got
hmm
words written, I got chapters lined out, I got all sorts of stuff, and it's just sitting there. And then like, okay, I need to finish this and
yeah, yeah. Because
keep
someone needs
going.
to read it, right? There's someone that needs that book in their hand, and if they had it in their hand, their life would be different. And so, in a similar way, when I really speak about, as a speaker, speaking is service. And so every time I get up on a stage or in front of a camera, I am serving my audience. But even through writing, I'm serving my reader. And so oftentimes, as I'm, particularly the last book, because it is a completely faith-based book, I'm praying for the reader. I'm praying and I'm speaking into their future. And in the book, I do write, dear reader, and I kind of have that personal conversation with them as they're reading, because I know exactly who I'm writing to. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's I like that. I mean, and that goes to just how we are so connected. And like you were saying, kind of like the human experience of what
Yeah.
we have. So tell me, I guess, a little bit more about your public speaking, and how does your personal development, like your personal development coaching, line up with business coaching? So are you coaching entrepreneurs? Are they one and the same? Like, can you, like, if I'm an entrepreneur, can I develop in my business and not in my personal, or do they need to intertwine and work together?
Yeah, so I'll start backwards. Absolutely, absolutely. They need to intertwine, because when you're an entrepreneur, you are your business, right? Yes, you may have a
Mhm.
team and you may have processes, but it's you, it's your foundation, it's your essence, it's where you are at. And so if you are not developing personally, your business won't develop. And
Mm,
actually, to some extent, your business will only develop at the same pace as you do. And so I think
that's good.
investing in yourself across all levels is fundamental. Um, to me, the concept of coaching and mentoring, the terms and the ways we do it are kind of quite interchangeable. And even here in the UK versus the US, we have slightly different definitions. And so when I'm doing business coaching, I'm still doing personal development coaching, because I'm coaching the person holistically, and I'm not necessarily teaching them the business process. For me, that's what a business mentor would do, who's done exactly what they want to do. So I sort of come at it from a different aspect, really. But yeah, you are your business. And even in a job or a career, if you're not growing, if you don't have that growth mindset, if you're not willing to consistently invest in understanding new research and new ways, and I mean, I love theory. I have to say, I'm a little bit of a geek in that respect. I do really love a good bit of theory. But if you're not understanding theory, well, then it doesn't really make sense. And in fact, what I did do when I knew that coaching was a big purpose in my life, I did go back and do a master's degree in coaching and mentoring, because
Mm,
I wanted to understand the theory. And also, I felt that if this was given to me as a purpose, I'm also responsible to understand it better, right? Because
yeah.
we are dealing with people's lives, and they're so important to God and important to us, that I want to serve my clients well through having the right underpinning knowledge, really. And then in terms of the public speaking space, that looks very different in COVID times than it did prior. But prior, I was speaking at business events, as well as running and hosting my own events around personal development, empowerment, public speaking,
Mhm.
and leadership as well. So I deliver
Okay.
keynotes around the good, the bad, and the ugly of leadership, sharing
Mm,
stories and insights into just the gift of leadership, but
mm.
also that if we don't steward that gift well, it can, produce some pretty toxic results.
That's really good. I like how you put that, the gift of leadership. And that immediately made me think of bosses that I've had that have been great.
Yeah.
And then there have been those ones that have been like, will make you hate your job every day.
Right. Right.
And
Because they have a powerful role. They have a pivotal role to impact our experience, every single day.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the right view of leadership, is that it is a gift.
Yeah.
So, understanding that we are, dealing with people's lives, and, you know, you deal with them means you have an impact on them, their families, their households, like all of that kind of comes into play.
Yeah.
And I think businesses and corporations are understanding that a little more.
Sure. Yeah,
But,
I would agree.
so
But there's still room for improvement, I think.
yes, yes, absolutely. So, um, let's see. Any other interesting facts about you?
Yeah. So, although I am a public speaker, when I was a child, I had a stutter. And to be
Really?
fair, at times it still does present itself on the odd occasion, either when I'm tired or stressed. But, I was in speech therapy, and it was a challenge to articulate certain combinations of letters for certain words. And I do have such vivid memories of going to the clinic for my speech therapy appointments, and sitting down and writing things out in my book and spelling it out and stuff. And so, when I was younger, I didn't necessarily really enjoy speaking because it was challenging.
Mhm.
And so to compensate, I spoke really fast, and I'd always get told off.
Ah,
Francesca, slow down. We can't understand you, which when you're a kid, who wants to hear that? So it made me even more frustrated. However, I do believe that when we have a certain destiny, the area that we can be most challenged in is also the area that we're called to serve in, And so I've had other challenges in relation to my confidence to speak based on other people's opinions and their views and stuff. But here we are today, and I'm delighted that I can serve through speaking.
That's awesome. So I guess that brings me to kind of my question, where we'll kind of wrap up here. But what are your thoughts? Somebody that wants to kind of get started on their own personal development journey. Like, where should they start? Where should they begin? What's kind of like the beginning process, I guess, if somebody wanted to come to you and like, Francesca, I would really like you to coach me, mentor me.
Yeah.
Where would you have them start?
I would have them start with, where do you want to be a year from today?
Hmm.
What is life going to look like for you? What are the experiences you want to be having? What do you want to be feeling and thinking, to kind of understand where they want to be and compare it to where they are now? And I think through that discussion, we learn about what is working well in their life and what isn't, what can be changed and when, and also what can't, because certain things we can't change, right? Because certain things are just life and also they're inherent. And so I think for me, it's really about what's that person's vision for their life, and I love asking the question, if there were no barriers, if there was nothing hindering, what would you be doing? Like, what is it that you really, really want? If money, time, age, experience, whatever could be a hindrance wasn't there, what would you be doing? Just to kind of understand more about that person. And then we take it from there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm such a big proponent of having a vision for your
Yes.
life and where you want to go, how you want it to look, vision for your relationships.
Yeah.
I love everything about having a vision. And people do
Yeah.
vision boards and all of that, and I'm
Yeah.
for all of it as long as you don't leave it up there and never go back to it.
Well, that's it. And I mean, and I also run vision board workshops, but then I developed a strategy around it. So it doesn't make sense just to have it on your wall and you don't understand how to implement it. So yeah, it's the both.
Yes, so absolutely. I love asking that question to people also. When I am a social worker by trade, so spending time with couples or families, you know, I've learned to ask, if I'm working with you or trying to help them, trying to serve them, it's like, okay, things are kind of bad now, but a vision helps to give you something to, go for, strive for. Things are kind of maybe looking bleak right now, but what does it look like for you if everything's perfect, if everything is
Yeah,
great?
absolutely. And I think it also inspires hope for
Mhm.
change, right? That life isn't always going to look like this. I remember a couple of years ago when I did my first solo trip abroad, and I was like, you know what, this feels good. I'm going to do it again. So on my vision board was countries that I plan to visit. And
Mhm.
I then made a plan and went to visit it. And it was just such a nice thing to be able to look forward to have those experiences that were just for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And having experiences changes you and challenges you and
Definitely.
lets you see the world bigger. And if I can take this trip by myself, who says I can't take three next year
Right.
by myself, or
Exactly
do
that.
something else or have this other experience? Like, it broadens your horizons and kind of opens
It
up your
really
eyes
does.
to the world.
Yeah, and it
So
builds confidence as well. To be able to jump on a plane and travel to other countries, or even, um, have a stopover in another country and still come back alive and well. Hallelujah. But it also really builds confidence. And so, yeah, I've done quite a few trips now, and I mean, I love it. I mean, I do miss traveling at the moment, but
yes.
hopefully we'll be back soon. So yeah.
Yes, hopefully. So awesome, awesome, awesome. This has been wonderful and
Yeah, thank you.
great. Thank you so much for joining me today. Um, how about you let everybody know where they can follow you or they can find you, if they want to, seek you out for
Yeah.
personal or business or, follow
Yeah.
you for your motivation Mondays and encouraging words. So,
Yeah, so the best place to find me is on Instagram or Facebook. So it's at Fran.elevate. And so that's where you'll find all about my business. And also I've got Monday Moments with Fran. And then the Surviving Spiritual Abuse Project, which is just starting. Again, it's got its own Instagram and Facebook page, and that's at ssa.restart.
cool. All right. I will put all the links to where you can find all of those in the notes for this. So, Francesca, thank you so much for joining me for the Prosperous Man podcast. This has
Thank
been
you.
an awesome and wonderful time. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lynn. Great to meet you.